Welcome back to the Development Tank, guys. Super pumped for today. Again, thanks for following along. Thanks for subscribing. We're nearly at 10,000. We're going to have a party at 10,000 and you're invited, fish. Pumped for today. The people asked and we have delivered. So we're going deep on interiors. We're going to be talking about what to spend money on and what to not spend money on. So how to make your developments even more profitable. Claire, welcome to you. You're over this side of the desk today.
I know, different spot. It's new.
So pumped for today, Claire.
I'm excited.
Yeah, so you've teed up Rebeka Morgan from BuildHer Collective.
It wasn't easy. It was not easy.
She's a busy lady, but no, super excited because our relationship, Little Fish and BuildHer's relationship, goes back a fair way, and it's back to the early stages of Little Fish and when we really figured out that interiors was super important. So we looked long and hard, searched far and wide to find our girl, and we did. Amazing company, amazing brand. Does amazing things for our projects, but we've worked with them for a lot of years now, and our projects are better for it. But Claire, definitely a part of the process that you value and enjoy.
I remember, I think within the first month or two when I started here, so a long time ago now, we were driving around Melbourne, meeting, sort of starting that interior process because it was a gap, I guess, in what we were doing. So we didn't have the internal elevations. Yes, we were doing the colour selections and materials together internally, along with some suppliers, but we weren't, I guess we were leaving a little bit of imagination up to the builder, which was a bit of a gap from client expectation versus end product.
Yeah, and super dangerous, right, as well. So anyway, so you're the one that pushed that interiors play.
Well, we could say that. But I think the main thing here is that we reached out to Beck, and if I'm correct, she wasn't heavily doing interiors. She does her own developments, which I'm sure she'll touch on shortly. But it was the perfect fit because the interiors that Beck was doing with her developments was what we wanted to start to see. Yeah. And Beck very well understands the balance of not overcomplicating the interiors. So what we didn't want to do is have these pages and pages of details, which was going to up our build costs by 20-30%.
Yeah,
I
think the main thing was Beck is a developer, builder herself, so understands costs and making money in developments, and that's what we try and do here. So it's not an interior designer who is just worried about building out their amazing portfolio. So anyway, Beck, thank you so much for coming on to the Development Tank.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm going to just help you out here. I interviewed you for our podcast, was where we met, because I was like, you guys are doing great things. I want to speak to you about development because we do development. As part of that, we were working in an area that you guys were working in, and we'd driven past some of your sites. And I think there's a healthy respect and there's education among some developers and some builders. So you guys were open with me, and we came in, we had a chat, and we saw what you were doing with your interiors and the way you were speccing out builds, which is where the market was at the time. And I'd say the market's moved now. So what we did when we spoke to you, because I think you actually rang me asking for a recommendation of an interior designer.
That's exactly what happened.
There you go. There you go. And then Beck went, ding, ding.
I've got an opportunity.
Actually,
as luck would have it.
As luck would have it. Well, we were doing interior developments for our BuildHers and our developers, which is just a community of women that build and develop with us. And we really value great interiors, but we kind of understand the balance of labour and materials. And that's a balance that kind of people forget. So it's all well and good to detail these really fancy things, but the labour that goes into that is too much. Or you've spec'd a stone that might be, say, $1,500 a square metre, not $500 a square metre, but the end user doesn't know the difference in the cost, and so they don't value that anymore. And so you're making these kind of value-based decisions all the way through.
Yeah. And that's, I think, Beck, your knowledge of being a genuine developer and builder over those years is I think that's the apprenticeship all interior designers should go through.
Don't you think?
Yeah,
I
think
do.
it's a good one.
Right.
Yeah, but I think that's the magic, and that's what we're going to unpack today.
Yep.
The do's and don'ts. Where do we spend the money, and where don't we spend the money? Because that's definitely been, I think, me watching you guys a bit more so, but learning about, okay, cool, we don't spend money there, but look at them go in this little area here where you're going to make them quite attractive.
I reckon I've said to Peter a few times that since we've Little Fish and BuildHer Collective have partnered, I've learned a lot from you because, like we said, you've got the development knowledge tied in with the interiors. So it's not just a matter of us here at Little Fish understanding what stone is hot right now or what colour joinery is hot right now. It's actually understanding the impact it then goes back to your feasibility and has an impact on that final return.
Well, I mean, underpinning that, I'm a registered builder, right? So I'm on site and I understand how much things cost and how hard things are. And so I also work with my husband on our developments, which is pretty fun. But there's a lot of pushback from my on-site builder when I spec something that's difficult.
A lot of feedback.
A lot of feedback.
So you're not living in your sort
my
of fluffy
bubble.
office and going, I'll spec this and spec that. That feels nice. You're out there getting the feedback firsthand.
Right. And it's not going to be built if I make it too difficult or if there's a point of fail. So we all love those overhang benches, right? And builders are like, nah, not doing it. Why? Well, because the stone's rigid and because to put the structure in it needs to be really heavy, but also it's a point of fail. So anytime someone climbs on the end of that bench, and they will, it's going to crack. So you can't do things like that. That puts your development at risk. It puts your builder at risk. But ultimately, you're going to pay for that. So it looks pretty on a piece of paper. But in reality, we want to be designing things that can be built, but designing things that give a wow factor and bring that emotion. We were talking about before. We're talking about emotion. When people go into this place, it's not a development that they're purchasing. They're purchasing a home. And this is their home that they want to live in for a long time. So you've got to work out that balance of spending to make it feel like a home and make it feel great, and pulling back where it's not going to be valued, where they don't recognise that you've spent any money.
And going back to, yes, there's a risk on the builder for this, say, overhang bench. I don't believe an end purchaser wants that in their house if it's going to come with potential problems down the track. Yes, they want nice and they want, I suppose, the niceties, but they also want functionality. And easy to clean, easy to maintain. Kids can crawl over things, those elements of each. I guess it's finding that balance, right?
It is. And it's kind of speaking to the person who's purchasing the house because they don't know these problems. They're going through, what are they looking at a house 2 times for half an hour before they buy it and spend probably the most amount of money they're going to spend in their life. And you want those 2 inspections to be filled with moments of, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to live here. And we know that there are areas that they are particularly committed to and areas where they open the door and they have a quick scan and they walk out.
And they go tick or cross, as long as it's a tick.
Cross, yeah.
And they bowl on.
Yeah, so what areas are we not looking at?
Oh, this is a test. Okay, let's go. What areas are they not looking at?
You've just changed our...
Sorry.
Hold on, I thought we were interviewing you here, Beck.
No, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. No, I am intrigued. What areas aren't they looking at?
I'm not looking at a powder room, personally.
Ooh, and everyone loves a fancy powder room at the moment.
Okay, not looking at a powder room. I think bedrooms can be pretty standard, other than size. I need to go in there and see size, and then I'm just carpet, plaster, and lighting. Then I'm out.
Bingo. Nice wardrobes.
And
nice wardrobes, but simple wardrobes. So typically we will do not full carcass wardrobes in kids' room. We want the kids' rooms to be even. So we don't want arguments between the kids. So if we've got 3 kids' rooms, we want them to be loosely even.
You've got kids, don't you?
Right, I've got too many kids.
So just quickly, Beck, so when you say not full carcass...
that means we've got a plaster back wall, so it costs less in the joinery to create that product.
And while clothes sit in front of it, you don't see it anyway. There you
go.
There's a bit of value, guys. Bang.
We spoke about that, I reckon.
7 minutes in, and there you go. You're saving money already.
Right, but you do want a nice door. So you want a nice profile door. No longer can you do the mirrored doors where you're sliding back and forth. Caveat. This is on a development of a certain level. There's a certain level where you get what you get and you don't get upset. And there's a certain level where you need to spend money appropriately to make money.
Yeah, correct. And I was about to say earlier, and this is probably dialing it back to early on and understanding your area, your resales, your feasibilities, your cost to value ratio.
Bingo.
Are we going to get the money back? So
Yeah.
obviously we're at the interiors stage, but Beck, I know you love your feasibilities, and
I
we
love
do
a
here as
feasibility.
well. But challenging what other product in the area is getting the results, what are they doing? Just understanding what the buyer's expecting and how you're going to get the money from them.
Right.
Are we diving into what to spend your money on?
Yeah. We can
Because-
dive into what to spend your money on.
You've just said one, the wardrobe.
The wardrobe.
Can
Well,
we-
the master wardrobe, you need to spend money on that. So, there's different
Okay, here we
areas
go.
of a house,
All right.
right? So, go in the front door, we want a good entrance. We want a wow moment in the entrance. We need a great flooring. We need something to feel cohesive and feel warm as we cross that threshold. You guys do a great job picking good front doors. We work with you kind of in the beginning to look over the colours and the way the whole development comes together, but we don't we don't dictate that. We work more on the internals. So you've got that working well. Your floor plan needs to work before you can do what to spend money on, what not to spend money on.
What I'm hearing, this runs deeper than just interiors, but there's always the relationship between feasibility, floor plans, facades probably got a little mention
Yeah.
in there to get to your interiors, and I love it.
And I think I've mentioned this on an episode before, but we actually get Beck and other Beck, BuildHer team, in earlier than planning permits. So when we still have moves to make with the floor plans is
Yeah.
when we start talking to these ladies, because exactly what you just said, how are you going to... Well, you can do interiors, but how can you add value if we're not moving the floor plan slightly?
Well, and some of that is about lining up windows. So if you're making a small change, you want a window to line up with that. You've got things that aren't going to cost any extra, but if you design it properly, it works well. And there's that phrase, which I'm not sure I should use, but like you can't put lipstick on a pig, right? So you don't want a product that doesn't function, doesn't flow. It doesn't matter how much jewelry you put on that,
Yeah.
if the floor plan doesn't work and the house doesn't work and you don't have the right light and you haven't done that feasibility, no amount of interior work's going to fix that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, and that's something we did learn early on. We sort of thought, okay, interiors are there, but the actual value of a good interior designer starts right from the start. How do we fix it? Like you said, windows is a town planning play. Ceiling heights, all these sorts of things will affect that stamp set of drawings. So super important. You can get their eyes on it a bit earlier, and the product will only be better for it.
Yeah, and then when we're looking at finishes, think about when you move into a house, what's the first thing we do when we go into someone's kitchen? We run our hands along the kitchen bench.
The stone.
It's the stone.
So
And we-
spend money on stone.
Spend money on, well, okay. Spend money on stone and bring a beautiful stone, but within a budget, because there's stone and there's stone and there's stone, right? So you've got limestones, which are cheaper, sometimes can be more cost effective. They're a little bit softer, but you've got good ones and bad ones. Probably the Tundra or the Teco Agenta are some of the lower base ones, but they give you a really great classic look. They're grey, they've got marbling, they look fantastic. That's going to run you, I don't know, like $300 a square metre, and then you've got all the way up to something that might be $1,500 a square metre for that, the Calcuttas and the Calcutta Golds that look beautiful in the photos, but really you're looking at the images that are from the high-end houses where they're living in it. That's their dream home. No one needs that unless you're creating that bespoke product for a reason, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point. And something that you, I think, taught me along the way is that maybe put your hero stone or your more expensive stone in the first maybe point, the kitchen where you go to first. You walk through and you go to the kitchen and everyone falls in love with the kitchen and potentially the master, because who buys houses?
Okay, but we're sort of saying there's 1,500, there's 300. Let's find a 700
No.
that people know.
You can use 300, you can use 400. We don't spend
okay.
more than 500. It's about our rule.
There you go. So, okay,
Claire's-
down at
Claire's-
500, and we find people fall in love with that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
because the stone, most people aren't going shopping for stones every day, so they don't know that one's more expensive than that one. They're still beautiful stones. They've still got movement, but that one that one's more rare from a quarry. you know, somewhere else in Italy, whereas this one's come out of maybe India, and, you know, there's a lot of it.
Yeah. But in saying that, when you put it in that house, in that new dwelling, surrounded by other things, flooring, curtains,
it's about how
tiles,
it relates together.
It can, yeah. And we need to keep our eyes on that feeser.
And we need to keep our eyes on the FISO, because we can't afford to be doing these massive moves. So we generally will go a hero stone. So if we're going to use a stone that is at 700 or that's more expensive, it's going to be a loud stone. It's going to be an impact stone. So we want to kind of have a statement. So when we come back, and we do this with you guys a lot, is we're thinking about the image that is going to be on the billboard up the front. We're thinking about how we're going to market and advertise this, because we need people to be in the house before they buy the house.
Yes.
So interiors starts with, well, what's my hero image? How are we going to set up this image? So yes, it functions. It's always going to function, but we're going to have something to draw people in. And that's generally the kitchen. Maybe it's a moment in this room or that room, but generally it's going to be your kitchen, because you're going to get a great island bench, you're going to get some carcassing and cabinetry behind it, and then you're able to play with textures and a whole heap of different, I guess, materials and light and windows, and that's going to be your moment.
Yeah, I love that. And you're touching on that now. I thought of that earlier, and Claire's, I think, recycled this back to me, and I look at floor plans differently because of it, but trying to create moments.
Yeah.
Which as soon as Claire said that to me, which I believe it's come from the BuildHer world, looking at a floor plan going, cool, there's a little mud room there, there's an entrance, there's powder rooms, there's this, there's that, all these moments inside a house, I feel like it takes it to a deeper level.
Well, it's about livability and moments, like where people are stopping and where that traction is getting. So they're not going into the kids' bedroom. So what's the point? And like, you're marketing to masses, right? So I'm going, I want this to be able to fit a downsizer. I want it to be able to fit a family with young kids, a family with old kids. So I can't go into a bedroom and go, I'm going to paint these blue and green and make it for a 3-year-old boy, because I don't know that end user. So I want them to be generic, or, you know, beautiful but nicely presented. People are going to poke their head in. And then we want our kids' bathroom to be clean and simple with a hero shot. We know we're going to have a shot of a bathroom there or an ensuite. Which ones are going to be? And ultimately, the person who buys a house is going to fall in love with their master suite. So master suite, ensuite, robes. This is where we do full carcass. We might do cupboard doors on it if it's a walk-through. We'll be thinking about that area in terms of finishes. You know, nice handles. Simple doors with no profile with a beautiful handle. That's a great way to do it.
I love this. I'm hearing a lot of sort of, we do that, but we don't do that. We do that, but we don't do that. And it's when you go into a house, I feel like you're looking at things and you're focused on things, but you're not realising that, oh, that board's probably just board, but wow, look at the handles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm hearing master kitchen spend money on.
Yeah, master kitchen living.
Master
right?
kitchen and living. Joinery for the master. Joinery for the other rooms, but not so much compared to the master.
Yeah, so joinery. So the joinery in the master needs to be bespoke. It needs to feel beautiful. I think we can see when it's kit, if you're doing a development yourself and you're building yourself, you can see and you can feel that. So we want that to be bespoke. We want that to feel luxurious. Actually, it doesn't cost a lot more if you've got someone doing the whole house to do that. And then we want to move into the ensuite, and we want the ensuite to feel luxurious. There's this thing where the hotels are trying to look more like houses, and houses are trying to get more like hotels. And we're trying to give this retreat space, this space that people are going to go into and go, oh, that's beautiful. So if we were doing curtains or drapes, what are we going to do? We're going to do our beautiful curtains. I know we use the same supplier there, so we use our beautiful curtains in those master rooms, and I often won't put them on the living room, and I'll put rollers on kids' rooms.
Yeah.
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 Because you can't afford to do everything everywhere.
Yeah.
No, 100%,
Sure.
and that makes sense. I think, and that's even, maybe getting them ready for sale. I think where, flick a couple of shears around, the odd plantation shutter, whether we go to the rollers or not. But that's the thing. I think that's talking to the actual underlying message that we're saying here is bedrooms are functional. They're there because we need them, but they don't sell homes as long as they're there. other than that, what's inside them is less important than kitchen, living, master suites.
It all goes back to who's going to ultimately buy that home.
And what
The
they're
kids
connecting
aren't
with.
buying homes, right? Okay, I have a question. What about flooring? Do you spend money on flooring, both carpet, timber, concrete, or do you not?
Okay, so what are our value ratios there? So carpet is the most cost effective normally, unless we're going for something particular. Then we're going timber, and then concrete being more expensive, though I do argue that, because if we're putting a concrete slab down, as long as we're not changing the mix, we can actually get a really great polished concrete slab for less than we would pay for a high-end timber.
Just quickly, how do you go going, okay, cool, we're going to go concrete here, and then, you know, trying to appeal to the market? Do you think everyone loves it, or is it a bit of a to each their own? What are your thoughts there, and how do you pick the dwelling or the development to go concrete on? Because I love concrete personally.
Yeah,
Love
that's
it.
because you've got 4 kids.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they can't
That's
break
right.
it.
Yeah, they can't break it. Timber floors for us is a nightmare.
But yeah, talking, because I'd love to sneak them into more developments, but does it
It's
appeal
about
to
warming
everyone?
it up, right? So it's about your area and what they like. So if I was doing a development in Toorak, I'm probably not going to do concrete floors because it's not going to be appreciated in the style which is selling really well. So it's about those comparisons into the market and what's going well. Whereas if I went in Northcote, which is where I do more of my developments, I'm happy to do a concrete floor.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's not necessarily about the floor because you could use any one of them. I don't mind. It's about how you pull the whole look together. So it's got to be warm because it needs to feel like a home. So at some point you need timber in there, right? So you start with a timber floor base and you're going to build up a cabinetry that's not timber because often I find when you're doing timber on timber, it doesn't match very well, and that's a problem. So I start with that, and then I'll look at what's the overall look and feel for this development. How's it going to set itself aside? How's it going to stand out? What's my moment going to be when I'm looking at this, and what do I need to add to achieve that? And then how do I pick materials which fit inside that budget and detail it in a way that it's not labour intensive? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't want, okay, so your biggest example of this is I go, okay, I want a wow feature on my kitchen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a curve on my island in the stone. Oh, yeah. So that would be $14,000 for like a curve stone, just the labour work, yeah, to curve the stone on a vertical. Whereas if you went, okay, I'm going to cut a curve into the horizontal of it, that's just a cut. That's inside of what you would normally expect.
Let's
instead
just
of an extra
recap on
over.
this for people listening because I've understood you. But it's almost like a curve, like a column. So
Yeah.
the stone is probably going in the form that it shouldn't naturally go.
Yeah, you're going to cut slits of that stone and then you're going to glue it all together and then you're going to buff it down. So it's really labour intensive. You go, but I wanted that wow factor. Great. Can you afford it in your budget?
Yeah. And that's a great point. Even I was at a development that you guys have done for us, and there's curve, and you guys created curve in the tile splashback to the island bench.
Yep.
So you've
Have I
done
said
it with a
that right? The
substrate
splashback?
and then
Yeah.
tiled it.
Substrate
Yeah.
and tiled it with little, maybe little 50 by 50s or something.
Yeah.
But you created that wow.
The curve.
In my
Yeah.
my opinion, the created wow with the curve, but labour not too bad.
Yeah. And that's what you're balancing, right? So every time you're doing something, you need to understand the labour and the materials that go into it.
Yeah.
There's similar things of like, do we need to tile full height in a bathroom? No. Actually, it looks more finished or more architectural if you finish it at a line. So often we'll pick the door height as our line and we'll run that round. I know you've seen that many times before. Sometimes we won't do entire walls. If there's no wet area on them, why am I tiling that wall? Because that's, I don't know, $60 a square metre for the tile plus $100 or $80 a square metre to install the tile. And it just having an understanding of what things cost. And you go, well, it's only that. I'm like, yeah, sure, it's only that. But when you add up those onlys 100 times over a project, that's where you blow your budgets. So you still need impact, you still need wow. Not opposed to spending money. I like spending Claire's money. But we just want to spend it where we're going to get an impact and people actually care and they can see the value in that.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And, you know, for me, what I'm hearing is we're staying very non-emotional, unemotional even.
Yeah.
On this front end, because we're property developers, successful property developers, but we want to create emotion to our buyers.
Yeah.
This is why I love BuildHer doing our interiors, because at every point, it's not just a material selection. It's not, I love that colour, I love this stone. It's always, can we draw it back to budget, or how am I actually going to build this, or how is the builder going to build this? What's this going to cost? There's always another layer of thinking, rather than going, oh, I love that Calcutta stone for $1,500 a square metre. We'll put that on, which, to give you some numbers, we had a builder recently misprice, I guess, a particular stone in a schedule, and it came back at $1,500 a square metre for stone. It was supposed to be $500, I believe.
Yeah.
And the difference for that stone supply and install for that project was $60,000 versus under 20 if they had it was an incorrect price. But how do you pick up $42,000 in the end sale because you upgraded your stone?
100%,
that's all it came down to.
I agree, and it's a full mindset play. Like, we're only talking about one product in one house, uses multiple houses with obviously the stuff we do. But if you're doing that, if you've got that mindset across the whole thing, you're going to end up, that's going to be a price tag at the end that you've either saved or cost yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And there's things that I wouldn't compromise. So I would never compromise. I don't put hollow core doors in, for example. I'll use semi.
Well, here you go, guys. Get your notepads. What are we not compromising on, Beck?
So what are we spending money on?
What are we spending money on?
We're going to spend money on things we're touching and feeling.
Yes.
So we want a solid core door. So think about it like, if I'm going to hold that door handle and open it, I get a really tactile experience of, is this an expensive house where they've, done it, or a house where they've built right?
Yeah.
Or is this a low cost budget and we've cut corners?
Love
right?
that. That's
it's an
a great
instant
example.
thinking, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you feel it.
Yeah.
And you don't even know if you feel it.
You don't even know.
But you're
Yeah.
like, this doesn't feel good.
It's like, hold on, this is a bit
So
tinny.
let's question everything else.
Yeah, and another one would be, I always put my skirts, I just face fix them. So I'm not doing P50s. P50s is where I've got like a channel and I'm lining up my skirting with my plaster, and I know a lot of builders do this. It's a build. I can always tell when it's a builder that's a developer, because they've always got P50s in them.
So that is what not to spend your money on.
Not to spend money on.
Yes, like it. And so from a skirt, and then just a skirt, maybe a square type skirt, or
Yeah, just a
something-
small skirt. So
Yeah.
the skirt is just there to protect the plaster.
Yes.
That's what it's doing.
not a
I don't
feature.
need to do a fancy skirt. No one's looking at the skirt going, I don't think I'm going to buy this house because that skirt's a bit small.
That's good. That's good advice. We've
No,
got
we definitely want
we've
small
got doors
skirts.
and we've got skirt, Beck.
So we've got doors, we've got skirts. Then I'm always going to do a wow moment in the kitchen.
Yes.
So I want that stone to feel great. I would never do a laminate bench top. I would never do something that didn't feel like it was high end. And then our handles. We want to spend money on our handles because we want them to feel...
Cabinetry handles, you were
Cabinetry
talking? Yep.
handles. We want them to feel great. Our tapware is another place we're going to interact with it. We're going to turn on the kitchen sink. I don't know why, but everyone just flicks it back and forth.
They're just making sure it works, all right?
They do. Well, they do, but they kind of go
true.
into the kitchen and they put their hands on either side of the bench and they stand there looking out, right?
Yes.
If I'm looking at
Yes.
buying this house, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stand there looking out, and at that point, I'm going to picture, where am I putting my, what's the layout of my kitchen? Where am I going to put things away? Where's my microwave? Does this fit? Can I entertain people? And I'm going to flick that tap back and forth.
Yeah.
I do it.
Yeah, I know, right?
I can picture people.
I do it.
Yeah, I know. Everyone does this same thing. But I do not spend money on high-end appliances.
That's another
Right?
one. Okay.
A medium level appliance, a good appliance with a good brand name, but I'm not going top spec. I don't care if that oven self-cleans itself. They don't care either, because they're not buying it for a self-cleaning oven. But the difference between the lower end or the normal budget and the high end can be $3,000 or $4,000, and you're not going to pick that up because they don't know that that's a pyro, whatever. I'm not a very good cook, to be fair. I'm not very. But a good cook also has their own appliances that they want to use, so they're going to switch them out.
Yeah, that's right. So you're not going
Yeah.
to get that right anyway if you're
Yeah.
trying to catch the cook.
That's
and
a
then,
good point.
And then, your appliance pack. you know, and then times 2 units.
You are talking a lot of money, but not money that will impact the bottom dollar. Like, it's not going to make you more money.
Just to be clear, you're saying we're not dropping low with
No, I'm not
appliances.
going low. I'm going a good brand name.
We're still, so it might be
I'll use a Smeg. I'll use an Ilvi. I'll use an LG.
Yes.
I'll use what's on sale.
Yeah.
Really, but
Yeah.
I'm not typically using your higher end ones. I'm not using your Sub-Zeros and your Miele's.
Yeah.
You've still got a household name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A brand name we recognise, right? We don't
Yeah,
want something
that we
we go in
trust.
and what is that? That's not going to work for you.
So I love this. So
That's
we've
a good
got
point.
skirts, doors, we've got the wow factor. Don't spend too much money on appliances.
And then admitting things like curtains to the back room. If you've got no overlooking area in your back room, why are we putting curtains on that? Unless you've got a cold space that needs it, I wouldn't put them on there. I'd leave it open. I'd furnish that. And I'd also be careful about what joinery I build in, because you're dictating how someone uses a room. Can you style into that, or do you have to build the joinery into it? Does every new house need a bar?
Yeah.
There's a trend of it,
Well,
but
yeah,
do they
I
need
get
it?
but-
You know?
Yeah, 100%. And then that's sort of, we've got our joinery and then we've got our joinery. Is that fair to say? So we've got our kitchens, joinery, pantries, joinery, wet areas, laundries, bathrooms, on all joinery. But
Yeah.
then people is there a danger of going too crazy with joinery out in living spaces, and as people walk in, you know, like, are we assuming too much of the way people are going to live? And can we just furnish that at the end and we're going to have the same impact?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your house, right? It
Yeah.
depends on how it's set up. It depends on that layout and how that wow factors come in. But I've seen full joinery packs in bedrooms where, you know, they're dictating that they've got like a makeup station and you've got this extra over level. And I think, make it nice, but that's not going to A, make the photos because it's on the blind side, but B, you are telling someone what they can and cannot live like. And that's not necessarily our place as developers either. We want to leave it open for them to make their own mark.
Yeah, and we don't want to spend money to
Yeah,
tell
also
them
that.
how they're going to live. Yeah.
So don't spend money on joinery in your living space and put sliders in your master bedroom. I'm hearing that. Put your money.
Sometimes put money in your living space.
Not at
Sometimes
the
do
cost.
the joinery, but not at the cost of something else. So it's all got to be this balance. And the thing is, if you go to someone like you guys, you're working this out ahead of time. You've got your budgets, you've got your feasibility, you know where you're going to have to sit, and you've adjusted that feasibility to allow for a certain level of finish. You're not getting to the end of the build and going, oh shit, I ran out of money.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to pull back on my finishes, which everyone can see and feel. So we want to be smart about it, but we do not have our finishes look budget, because that just hurts our bottom line more than anything else.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Beck. And I think now more than ever, inflation is there and build prices are going up. They've gone up aggressively in recent times. So for me, and everyone knows where we do most of our developing, you need to give something to the buyer. If we're out to make people dig deep into their pockets, what are we going to give them? Why are they going to choose our product? Like, you guys are great at it. That, you know, you look at your Instagram feedback and it's all beautiful stuff. You know, what's the buyer getting? Why are they going to dig deep into their pockets? But as we're hearing, do it in a smart way.
Yeah, well, you need to give them value. So they need to feel like they can move in and they don't have to spend a whole heap of money on it. But we don't want to put that value in a place where they're not recognising it. All right, here's one for you. Outdoor barbecues.
Ooh.
Do we need to do a fully outdoor space with an outdoor barbecue in it?
So you're talking, do we need to do full joinery, sink, barbecue, fridge
It's
maybe?
a trend coming through. I've seen it many times, but do we have to do that to sell a house?
I don't know. I haven't got a yes or no. I'm a bit like you, Beck. I've got more long-winded answers. I think it depends on the type of house and distance from kitchen, and is it a totally different zone? Is it a smaller townhouse where your kitchen is 8 metres away from your outdoor kitchen?
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a thing for me. But don't know if it's a male thing, but I do love the idea of being outside, little beer fridge, sink,
Yeah.
you know, music on, TV on.
I think it's area and
Barbecue.
location and market. And I'll say that because Gillies, for example, one of the jobs that we're doing, we're going to do, say, a floating shelf with the barbecue, and that is it. So no built-in sink, no built-in fridge. your kitchen is within 5 meters
Yeah.
of that area. That is probably the argument that Beck's going to have. But does maybe Sandringham or Hampton or Brighton lend itself to a full outdoor kitchen? Or I feel like I'm telling
Maybe.
myself this, is the house too small to cater for it?
Yeah.
Where are we at, Beck?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, this is the
Okay.
thing, right? So it's got to
a
be
good
area
topic.
dependent, and you're
Yeah.
looking at what people are giving, but you also need to be looking at, well, what's the end result? Like, am I going to get more money for that, or am I just dictating that someone now uses my barbecue, my thing, you know, and actually they're really into barbecuing, and so they're going to cook on a barbecue that they want, so you're never going to get that finish, or do you leave a space for a barbecue to go?
Or a pizza oven.
Or a pizza oven,
Oh.
right?
I think it's location and area, because I think of the our comps that we've used over Bayside, and they are heavily more weighted to a full outdoor kitchen, potentially because there's often a pool there. You're outside often, whereas some of our north sides don't have as many built in.
As big a backyard.
It's probably that
I mean,
too.
this is the thing. Like, if I'm looking at a development from like this, not really on finishes, but if I'm looking to develop in an area, I would really like a small piece of land with a high value of house, right? So I don't have to build a massive rambling house to get that level or to get that outcome. I can build a more modest house with better finishes, keep it tight, and I'm going to make a better return because that's what the market expects. They don't need me to buy a massive amount of land and then develop that massive amount of land. So an area that might be a trouble for that would be, say, Canterbury, right? The houses are big. They're big. They need an outdoor kitchen. They need a blah, blah, blah. They need all these things, which kill the FISO
Yeah.
because the land's also expensive and massive.
Yeah.
So thinking about where you develop in the beginning, so the FISOs work, and then what you have to put into that. Some areas have to have a pool. Some areas don't have a pool.
Yeah. Spot on. It's dialing right back to your initial plan and FISO and figuring out what you're going to put into them. I like the idea that, like you say, we don't want to spend too much money on telling people how they need to live.
Yeah.
And if the kitchen is close enough to that outdoor area with a couple of nice doors to get out there, well, if the kitchen's good and we open up the doors, why have we got 2 cookers right beside each other, sort of thing?
Right, it's thinking about functionality. And then in other areas, you do need it. So nothing is ever simple. And I think the nuance of development makes it hard, but makes it fun and makes it kind of
Yeah.
easy when you can read it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
100%.
It's like if you can pick that apart and you can some people gut feel it, some people pull it apart in numbers, we all like spreadsheets here. If you can pull that apart, you can go, okay, well, I can afford to spend this or this, and that's where I'm going to get a return.
How important is, I guess, surrounding yourself with the right people, whether it's a couple of really good agents in the area. These people are meeting dozens of people every weekend during the week. They're hearing what people are liking in that certain area, and getting feedback from them. Is that something you look at?
Yeah, so I do. I've got agents I work quite closely with, and even when I'm moving into another area, I'm doing a build in another area at the moment. So typically I like Northcote, but I'm doing one in a different area. And in that area, I spoke to the agent up front. I'm like, well, show me what's sold and sold well. And actually, when you're showing me what's sold well, how many people were competing for that house, right? Because I can get a result and I've pushed it, I've got one person, I've pushed up, and it's been a really laborious effort to get that result, or I can get a result where people are fighting over it. I want to create a product where people are fighting over it.
So digging a bit deeper in your comparables,
Yeah.
what sort of sale was that?
Yeah, was that easy? Did I have 5 people on it? What was the last thing in this area where you had a group of people turn up and fight over this house? Yeah?
Yeah.
Show me those houses so I can unpick what is it about that? Is it location? Is it finishes? Is it styling? Does it back onto a park? Is it a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and this area's really only got 3 bedrooms and no garages? What is it about this, and how do I then create that product? And sometimes the ones that are best selling are the ones that don't hit the market very often, so you don't have a great depth of comparables, right? So you're trying to find the ones that people are fighting on because they're not out there. They're not in the market. So you can't just read over the sold prices and go, oh, that's a winner. You have to have that kind of more analytical on the ground. And you also have to turn up to some of these opens and hear what people are saying. What are they resonating with? What do they not like? People are brutal. They will tell you what they don't like about a house. And they will tell everyone in the room. It's so rude. I don't know why they do it.
It's true.
But they will. They'll do that. And so you can get so much information by being there and also being at auctions. Do they have to force people into the game or are they starting?
So you're almost controlling your product and outcome so you have a competitive market.
Yeah.
Rather than relying on the market to be competitive.
I've got a product at the moment and I'm like, okay, I don't have a heap of comparables on it because this product doesn't come out in this market a lot. It's not built. It's not like, what I would say is, I've been working in one market quite a lot. Now, the end result of the product, people are like, oh, that makes money. And then, 10 years on, you've got a lot of builders doing the same thing as what we did. So you've got a lot of competition for that end result. Whereas if you can look across something else and say, okay, there's not a heap of this, or what is there is substandard, or it's grey kitchens and red brick and it's dated, how do you differentiate yourself and create a product which stands out and makes impact? And that's what you guys have been really good at doing, but that's what we've been focusing on too. We want to see the market and then read what we need to deliver to that market to get those record prices. That's why you guys have got record prices. That's why we've got them, because we're reading the market as it is and the market into the future. Sorry.
Love it. Some great insights there, going even deeper than interiors. Claire, you've got a segment for us.
Yeah, I do. We're going to do a this or that. So the aim is to be quick and fast responses.
How's this
We've
going to work?
been told by Bonnie, but I don't think it's going to work like that.
I love that you're telling me what
Beck's
I'm meant
go
to be
deep.
doing. I'm like, yeah, definitely stay on topic. This is what we're going to do.
But I think the viewers and the listeners will appreciate maybe a bit of context. So if you drift off, that's fine.
You're not going to stay firm with that. You're not going to
Beck's going to do whatever Beck wants to do. So Claire's segment, this or that.
This or that. Light or dark joinery.
Light in general, but there's a place for dark.
Standard linear or herringbone style timber flooring.
Standard for cost reasons, but there's a place for herringbone as well.
This is going to be your answer the whole way out.
I was about to say, I like this. She's thought about this.
Well, okay, so if I was doing a more classic kitchen, if I was doing something that had that embellishment and maybe had bullnoses and rolled and had more of that kind of classic Hampton style, that would be herringbone.
Your second living on ground floor or first floor?
Preference is ground. I'll go second if I have to.
Peter?
Like yeah, same.
Okay.
Get the bedroom upstairs, get the living downstairs. Let's go.
In the houses.
A small walk-in robe or a big built-in robe?
A big built-in robe.
With nice handles.
With nice handles.
2 basins or 1 basin in the main bathroom? Not the master ensuite, just the main bathroom of the house.
Couple of kids, few kids floating around.
If you so it depends. It depends. If your bathroom is really big, then it's going to look really weird having a single basin. But in general, as we said before, people are opening that door, they're looking at the bathroom, they're going, great. They don't care whether their 2 kids share a basin to brush their teeth. So 1.
Love it.
And a bit more bench space. I appreciate a bit of stone,
yeah, I know,
a bit of
right?
bench
And
space. I like
cost.
that. And cost, yeah.
I'm on the 1.
We love
Yeah,
it. Okay.
we're normally on the 1.
Handles or finger pull to kitchen joinery?
Either. It's a look. It's what are we trying to achieve here?
Your fridge in the main kitchen area or in the pantry?
Depends whether it's built in.
Okay, here's a good tip. We're digressing, but a cost saving.
A cost saving would be putting a fridge space outside of the main kitchen area. So if I'm looking at that image, I do not want to see, in the markets we're developing in, we don't want to see a big fridge cavity and someone's big silver fridge. Like, that's not selling the dream, right? So we'll want that one built in. The alternative to that, and we'll put our fridge in that butler's pantry. Now be careful of flow, because if you open those doors, you block the flow, you're in trouble. But you could put it in a side wall is your other one. So sometimes we put them in that nook out of the way, and then it doesn't impact the photo, but it's still...
On the edge there, facing the island.
Yeah.
Got it. Like it.
So if budget permits, integrated. If it doesn't, hide it somewhere, but still make it workable.
Flow is the most important thing in the kitchen.
Carpet or timber to the stairs?
Carpet. Budget. But
I knew
maybe,
it. I said downstairs you were going to say carpet.
the bottom 3 to be timber, and it also depends whether I've got an open or a open tread and riser, or I'm building in. In that case, my staircase would be enclosed. If my staircase is enclosed, I'm going to go carpet. Maybe the bottom 3 timber tread, and if I've got a open staircase, I'll do it in timber. But I have done one in tiles. It was beautiful, like a carpet runner. It's pretty.
So carpet was the answer, I believe.
Love that.
Yeah.
Saving money and saving the little ones' heads when they fall down the stairs.
In the right circumstance.
Open or closed study?
Oh, you need to see the floor plan. It depends. Depends what
That was
you're
a hard
doing.
one. But generally, in a townhouse.
It depends what you're doing. Like, where is it? Is it at the front door?
Yes, let's go with that.
Oh, you okay? You study at the front door. Well, then you don't have the space to close it in.
Okay. It's a good
You
one.
make it a bit of a feature, nice joinery, bit of stone even. Watch out.
But it could also be used as a drop zone or another area. So you're giving people flexibility in that area, because not everyone wants to work from home.
No.
And
you-
at the front door.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. And as you said earlier, which is a great point, creating those nice vibes when you walk in the front door. If that's closed off, suddenly we're maybe dark, we're enclosed, we're claustrophobic. If that's open and, like you said, whether it's a study or not, it's space.
Yeah, so as we walk in that front door, and I'm digressing again, but as we walk in that front door, firstly, we need to understand that the agent is going to have that door open and be standing in that doorway. So no one's touching that front handle, just so you know. That's going to be open when they're going through there. And then you've got an agent standing in the hallway. So if you've got a very small, narrow corridor, the agent standing there and people trying to cross in and out at a busy open, and we want our opens to be busy, is going to create a flow problem and make everything feel more constricted. So we want an opening that works for the traffic management and for people who are going to come look and buy that house.
Great insight.
That's a good point. You don't want your first feeling to be, oh, this is tight.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 more. So natural stone or porcelain?
Porcelain's expensive. Well, okay, so porcelain isn't expensive, but the installers of porcelain make it expensive because they don't like doing it. There's a bit of risk on the way that they do it, so I always use natural stone. But I also love that it's a natural product.
Okay, and the last one, pool or no pool?
Market driven. So it has to be market driven. We did 2 properties side by side in Fairfield, and we tested out the pool or no pool because I like knowing how many people commit to something or don't commit to it. Like I like testing the numbers. And the one with a pool sold for $200K more than the one that didn't have a pool. I happen to still know the person. She's actually come in as a joint venture partner on one of our other projects, the person who bought the second house. She's like, everyone gets a pool except for me. You get a pool, you get a pool, you get a pool. No pool for me. I'm like, sorry, Emma. So in that situation, the pool would have given me a $200K uplift. And it would have cost me $100. Fully tiled,
everything.
landscaped for everything. So it would be worth it.
There you go. But what I'm hearing is do your research.
Do your research.
Yeah.
Speak to your agent.
Yeah.
What are the comps? What aren't the comps? And
Yeah.
use your research.
Use your research because, you know, not everyone needs it. But if you've got a tiny little pool that's compromising the backyard, that's a worse outcome than if you didn't put one in there. One of the houses, we had 500 people come through our opens. Of those 500, we surveyed them just for shits and giggles. We do shit like this. And checked 69% of people wanted a pool. I think 14% of people did not want a pool and the others didn't care.
Interesting.
Geez, that's overwhelming.
The purchasers didn't care. Bummer.
So pool or no pool?
Do your comps.
Okay.
Do the work, Claire. Don't just
the
come
work,
in for
do
the
the
answer.
That's not a good one to end on, is it? Okay, what about this? Al fresco or no al fresco? Circling back because you never answered that. For you.
For me, okay, so it depends what I'm doing. So if I'm doing townhouse development, often al fresco is a really good extension of the living area, so you get more of that living zone where you wouldn't. But often when I'm doing a house, I don't want that because it's going to block the light, it's going to cut down the back angle of the house, and I really want a strong image of the back facade. So as long as it works, often I'm no alfresco.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do
like
an
it.
area, but not a covered in area because it can make the inside spaces dark.
Yeah, and
it's a
great
good
point. I was going to mention that before. Just, sometimes site coverage needs to be used in the best fashion possible, especially when you're out in Glen Ira and Bayside where it's 50% site coverage and maybe the alfrescos aren't covered because of that reason. And sometimes, obviously, we go for a little bit of coverage if we want a little barbecue there. But that's another good point, is that these living spaces, the more light we can get in them, the better. And when we're covering for outdoor kitchens, it can take away from that living space.
So this or that is done. It probably wasn't as sharp as Bonnie would have liked, but I found that interesting.
Bonnie will make it sharp. Yeah, super interesting and a lot of value through there, like there has been for the whole pod. And it's super important because, we've managed a lot of developments. You've done a lot of developments yourself, Beck. It's a long process. It's a long journey. There's a lot of blood, sweat and tears that we put into these things. And if you don't get this bit right and connect with your marketplace so you can get those results, it's pretty miserable.
It can be a pretty heart-wrenching sale process when you've done, the work for 2 years.
Yes.
So depending on how you do that, you want to make sure that you're adjusting all the way through and make sure you're meeting the market where the market's at. I'll give you one more thing that you need to spend on. You ready?
Yeah, I like it.
Ready.
Landscaping. We need proper sized trees.
This is
Buy
going back
up the
to-
tree, overplant that area, stop putting a couple of liriopes in and pretending that you've walked away. Yep, I'm done. You need to make it feel like a home, put the proper landscaping in, make it feel cohesive. And again, when I hit that front door, if someone's put the proper trees in and landscaping, I feel like they've cared about that house. And it's not an afterthought.
This is going back to, sorry, I cut you off before, but going back to what you said earlier in this episode about people want to buy a home that's been lived in.
Yeah.
They don't want a brand
Established.
new product. And we always say it when there's a tree that we can't get rid of because it's protected. It's actually not a bad thing as long as we can fit our footprint in, of course. It's great to feel like this hasn't just been put up in the last 12 months.
I prefer having trees on my site. In fact, people have said to me before, "Oh, you're so lucky. You've got such great trees on the houses you do." I'm like, yeah, that's luck. But you're trying to find houses that have great trees because that does give you that lived in, that nice, continuity. You've got this beautiful space that feels like, and I don't think we said on the podcast actually that that people don't want to buy a newly finished house. They don't. But I think that was beforehand. We were talking about the fact that people don't want to buy a newly finished house. They want to buy a house that someone's lived in. And why don't they want to buy it? Because they don't want to feel the fear of, has this developer cut corners? Developers have such a bad name. And they don't cut corners. Like the building regs are so stringent now that you actually have to do a lot to get all the way through that.
Yeah.
And I don't know any builders that cut corners. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
But it is that fear. What if I can't see what's going on behind this?
Yeah.
When the reality is you buy something else that's been lived in and, there's way more issues with that.
Yeah, correct. And I think, and that's obviously tying into the landscaping, creating something that feels established, it's been looked after. I think someone said to me, and it's probably come from you guys, put the landscaping in earlier. It's come through you,
Hawthorn
Claire,
East.
but
Sorry, yeah.
put it in earlier, water it, let it establish, let it take to the property. Because that's the thing. I think new, whether it's a new car, new house, is amazing, but it's just building that trust and making that house feel established, rather than, okay, so you're going to look after the garden, you're going to help it grow, all that sort of stuff. I think the more we can deliver a product that people can genuinely go, this feels like home the first day you're in there, we're a chance.
It's worn in. It's like a pair of new jeans. Every new jeans, like you buy the new jeans and they're itchy and they're scratchy and you wear them in a little bit and then they feel great. They feel comfortable. You've got this really great look and feel, but it's not day one, and houses can be like that.
Yeah.
They can have that kind of, it didn't quite. And so the landscaping and that integration, making sure you're furnishing, get someone really good to furnish it that understands where you're going for it, and putting the money where you can see and feel it. It'll help protect your end asset because people will pay more when they get to the kitchen and they're standing there and they're thinking about how they're putting their cutlery away, they start to connect with living that lifestyle, and you've sold them a dream. That dream is what makes you money at the end.
Yeah, and they feel attached to it already.
Yeah.
Love it. Beck, thanks so much for coming on. Plenty of nuggets in there. There was one more question.
There's one more question.
Claire.
Tried to wrap it up.
This
I
is a
couldn't get
hard
there.
one.
No, I remember there was one more. We're missing one more.
So, if you're about to embark in the interior process, so you're probably 3 to 4 months away from starting your build.
Yeah.
So whether you're selling off the plan or you're going to sell a finished product, you're anywhere between maybe 12 to 6 months of selling from now. What do we need to put in, or what do the audience need to put in their development right now that's going to be sought after in 12 months from an interiors perspective?
From an interiors, you're looking for styles. So picking the style of the market moving forward.
What is that?
Yeah, what's hot? What's
hot
what do you
right now?
think?
What's hot?
What's hot?
What are we thinking about?
I can think of one thing you've convinced me on about a month or two
Is
ago.
it steel? Steel bench tops? No. Love a bit of steel.
It's controversial.
It's really controversial, but I love it. Chrome tapware.
That's
chrome
it.
tapware? Because
That's
chrome
it.
tapware is coming back
Can you believe
in
it?
a big way. Love it.
I can deal with that.
We've got it at
Yeah.
Gillies.
Yeah, because you've got the contrast. So people are really still looking for texture. They're looking for warmth. They're looking for simple palettes, but you've got to be careful to put enough contrast in that it actually doesn't just look out like a really bland, washed out cardboard, really. It's too much beige on beige on beige gives you that. We're still warm tones. We're not grey tones, but you do need to add a bit of depth. If you're bold enough to use colour and you understand how to use it, go for it. Just make sure you're using it in a way that's sympathetic to that market and that end user, so they're not stuck with something that's maybe, electric blue or the orange wallpaper that one of your clients wanted, which was very bespoke to what they wanted. Owner occupier. Yeah, we're very bespoke to what they wanted, but I think anyone else who went into that property would have gone, oh, I'm going to need to paint that, right? So give it a bit of wow. But do it in texture and tone rather than, too much hard-hitting, bold colours.
There you go. So we're getting a little bit
Creative.
of bold coming through, are we?
Yeah.
That's all
Did you
we're
say
seeing.
steel bench tops?
Steel bench tops.
Okay, so
I
that's
love a
coming,
steel
and
bench top.
chrome tapware, I'm hearing.
Chrome tapware, and we're a little bit bold. in
And
our
a little bit
textures.
bold.
Steel stone throughout.
Steel.
Steel bench tops or stone bench tops is still
Okay.
going to be,
They're still going to be.
anyway,
Okay, I like it.
your money.
Beck, thanks so much for your time. So much value in there.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun.
Yeah, no
So
doubt
it's
we'll
nice
have you
to debate
on
it.
in the near future.
Thanks. And we'll have to get you guys back to talk to our community.
Absolutely. Maybe we could, when we go and shoot out on site.
Yeah, there you go. The
Beck
finished
could come.
product.
Beck and Beck.
Ooh.
We can
Which
challenge
one?
it.
Which one? Gillies. Ooh,
All right, guys,
there you go.
please share that with anyone that's going to get value. Super valuable episode there about how to make your townhouses connect with your marketplace and hit those profits. Happy developing.